Right, so I'd like to start with quite a deep and profound question, and that is, what makes life worth living? And for me, that is all about health. I've had times when I've not been very healthy, and that's sucked. And happiness. That's actually a little sketch of me before I had my haircut. And what I really find interesting is the link between life satisfaction and health. And this is information from the British Medical Journal, and it shows a really strong link. And I think that linking factor is actually down to well-being. And really what I'd like to do today is explore how health, life satisfaction and well-being are related to design and Bath. And there's always going to be a spectrum of health, from mental health to people who are really flourishing. And that well-being spectrum is always going to exist. But I think it is possible to shift that spectrum through good design, good places for people. So essentially, there's ways to do this. 5 ways to well-being, scientific principles developed by the New Economics Foundation. Give, take notice, be active, connect, and keep learning. And if you do those things, a bit like your 5 fruit and veg a day, then you'll be better for it. So how does the built environment impact those things? Well, we've not got long, so I'm just going to focus on 3. And that's take notice, be active, and connect. So what are the features of design? What are the features of Bath as a place that do these things, that make us take notice, that make us be active, and help us ultimately connect? So how do you understand that? Well, you could ask people surveys, you could give them a questionnaire, you could interview loads of people, or you could actually observe, get your binoculars out, or you could actually take all the social media data that's already out there, that people are posting, that people are taking photos of, and see what they're saying. And we'll look at some of the stuff from Twitter. So these are pictures from Twitter over the last 3 weeks. We live in a great place, right? This looks amazing. Also, you have a tendency to post things that make your friends jealous. So, there's a lot of permanent features here. The Bath Rec that Rob mentioned, lots of things to do with the Abbey. But what really stood out to me was actually there's so much connection to Bath's water. And, you're seeing fountains up at the university, the weir. And really, I think this is great. But is there an opportunity perhaps to create a bit more playfulness around that, bring that more into the public realm? And I also find this really interesting. So Southgate, loads and loads of photos about the umbrellas, people taking selfies and really kind of engaging in that space. So transient kind of activities in those permanent places, how do you enable spaces to do that better? And really, make people connect as well. With social media, you can go one step further. So you can actually program a computer to look at the sentiment of different tweets. So when we were looking at Bath over the last 3 weeks, we had over 1,200 geotagged tweets. And you're starting to see what people love, what people find difficult, where people are having manic experiences. And you can also see exactly where they've been when they've posted these images. And this gives us a vast amount of intelligence to understand what is working as a place, but also how we can improve it in the future. And to be honest, I get really excited about this data, and I don't think it's well enough used. And if we can take that and start to look at, actually, where are people being more positive? Where are people being more negative? What kind of nouns, adjectives are they using in those spaces? But most importantly, how can we use that to enable change? So what you're seeing here is the red dots that represent places where people have tweeted something that's perhaps a bit angry or unhappy. But when we remove the bits in between, it allows us to start asking some really powerful questions. Like, why are people more positive here? And why are people more negative over here? And this is information that's just not necessarily usually used to inform design. We should take this and run with it and really think about what the future holds. We talked about activity being really important to well-being. What we've got here is Strava, and it's plotted the heat maps of where people are cycling around Bath. And what I think is really interesting is most people just follow roads where there's traffic, and it's pretty dangerous and not necessarily the nicest place to take notice. Can we disconnect that? When you look at it for running, you start to see more people using parts of the countryside, some of the cycle paths. The towpath is really well used here. I think, actually, is there ways to activate this better? Water fountains, urban gyms that can be created in places where we know people like to be because they are already. And really, 3 recommendations that come out of this are, let's reconnect Bath to water. People are already recognising these things. But, you know, I've just been on holiday to a place where there was fountains, and in the public realm, kids were playing in those things. And you're like, actually, we don't have that in Bath. Let's actually make that part of our public realm. I also think that the thing with the umbrellas was, you know, it's slight tweaks that create the interest, the activity, and make people want to dwell in those areas. So how can we create permanent places that actually encourage those transient things? And my final recommendation is really about what I think is missing most in Bath, and that's a creative cluster. And it'd be great to unite town and gown and really bring those people together in a way that's co-created, and it feels like everyone who's been involved has had a part in developing that creative cluster. But having said all that, that is just my opinions based on about 2,000 other opinions on how to create better Bath. But I'm also really interested in what this group of people, there's 90 people here today that have a profound, you know, impact on Bath, and we can really develop a better place together. So thanks.